I can remember the armed military. That you don't forget. And they were escorting us from our homes, getting on the buses. And once we were on the bus, they were with us. Whenever we stopped, they would step outside the bus and watch us. The armed forced removal constantly stayed with us until we got into the camp. And of course, at the camps, they were very heavily fortified and defended, and lots of military police, military armed guards there. So we were not allowed to leave on our own at all. Yeah. Pomona is typical of many of these assembly centers. The conditions were absolutely horrible. The first group who went in were forced to live in horse stalls, because that's the only facility that was available at the time. And the conditions were absolutely terrible. They attempted to try to clean up the horse stalls, gave it fresh paint, and they covered the floors with some sort of a covering. I don't remember the details, but I've talked to several people who were forced to live under that condition, and the government provided large sacks for a mattress, and we were instructed to stuff it with hay. So they had hay feed for the horses in piles, and they made mattresses out of hay in these bags, and that was their furnishings for living inside these stalls. Fortunately, in our case, we were one of the group who arrived after all of the stalls were filled. So by the time we got to Pomona, they quickly built these barracks. Some people call it shacks, a temporary structure to house us, and it was very, very rudimentary, paper-thin walls, uninsulated, and you can hear all your neighbors and all the problems that they have, and it was the conditions were terrible. We were just, wall-to-wall cots for sleeping, very little room for moving around, and so we lived there for about 4 months before we went to Heart Mountain. Food, like I mentioned, I can recall at the start was just terrible. The camp administrators had absolutely no idea as to what we were accustomed to eating, and they ordered things that we just did not eat. Typical bread and potatoes, like you mentioned. We're not used to bread and potatoes in those days. We were still. We liked our rice, we liked fresh vegetables, and an occasional a meat of some type, some protein, like perhaps a small piece of a chicken, or maybe a little bit of meat to go along with the rest of the meal. But with this terrible menu of bread and potatoes, we just simply complained that we're not used to that, and we gave the administrators the request that we raise our own veggies, and we arranged to have irrigation canals finished and created farms. There were some local experts in farming in Wyoming, because very few people in the camp knew how to raise vegetables in that terrible environment. They have a growing season of 3 months. In California, we have it almost year-round. And so with these limitations, we still had to learn how to raise these crops during the critical time of the year. And so we succeeded. These farms grew up, and we had much better food as a result. Still not as desirable as we were used to, but still it was better than what it used to be. So that's an example of the kind of work that was accomplished to make life more livable in the camp.